Thanks for having me today. It's been, I think, January or February of 2017. I spoke in front of this group. I had just been here a couple of months and still really getting my feet wet. I didn't even know where the press room was when I was invited to come to meet the first time. So good to be back. There has been a lot changed in my world, in our world, and in the world since then. Last year was, I really felt like through January, I told somebody, I think it was on the 19th of January, that we were on December the 49th of 2020, because it didn't feel like 2020 had ended at that point. But now it finally does, after a really tough year for all of us. I want to go back to January of last year of 2020, and I don't know how many of you know. I know some do, a lot of you may not. We reformed the company that owns the Times News. It was owned by Sandusky Newspaper Group for decades. And David Rao, who some of you know, was publisher at one time. Keith Wilson, I followed Keith once he retired. But January 1 of last year, we renamed the company Six Rivers Media. Everything else that Sandusky owned, Sandusky Newspaper Group owned at the time, which was papers in Ohio, another one in Tennessee, Michigan, Utah, all those papers were sold. We reformed to Six Rivers Media, and it's just this group, just the group that I'm president of. The two dailies here, the Irwin Record, the Jonesboro Herald Tribune, and the Mountain City Tomahawk. We also have a digital group that Net 360 that we are incorporating back into our legacy print products at this time. But the family, David Rao and his son Alan. Alan is, we call him our Chief Disruption Officer, because he does a little bit of everything, including disrupting things for the rest of us, and that's a good thing. Alan has started asking a lot of questions, starting to learn the business, and he and his dad have ownership and control of the paper here, or the papers, this group. That's all they have. So we do have local ownership. David still lives in Hilton Head, but Alan's here, I'm here, all the decisions are made here. So we don't have, when I came here, we had the president of the company lived in St. Pete. Far removed from any of the properties, far removed from on the ground decision making. So a lot of things decided sort of in a bubble outside of here. So we get to make the decisions now, so we're all to blame. In the last probably 10 months since COVID came to town, it's been almost a year now, it doesn't seem like it. It has been a challenge. We had actually a pretty good start to 2020. The newspaper business, traditionally, the first quarter is a losing proposition. It always has been. I've been doing this 41 years, and I can't remember but 1 or 2 months in the first quarter that we actually were in the black. Last year, we had a good chance. We had a good chance through February. Through the middle of March, had a good start. And then the bottom dropped out. Middle of March, everything got shut down and the world came to close. All of you were part of that. So the rest of the year was a challenge, but we survived. David and Alan didn't have to put any more money into the bank, so they were pretty doggone happy about that. But as we moved into this year, we decided we had to take some sort of new focus and new approach to some things. So for the last about 10 weeks, I was telling Pat, the last 10 weeks have been a bit of a tornado, hurricane. I have a house in Florida, so more like a Category 5 hurricane. It has been a whirlwind of activity in our world. We've had some turnover in staff, and in every instance it has been what we've done, the folks that have left have gone on to some great jobs. I mean, they really have. gone on to some good positions, but we've also been able to hire some really talented people to take their place. Some of you may know Ben Conkin. I know some of you in here probably do. Ben worked at the Times News for about 10 years, from 2006 to 2016, as our digital operations manager. Ben went, I told him he's been sort of roaming the digital desert for 5 years, but he came back. We hired him back about 3.5 weeks ago, and he thinks about more things in a day than I think about in a year, it seems like. I mean, it's just clicking every day. Every hour of every day, there's something new and something going on, something happening, and we've got new platforms that we're rolling out on the digital side. We've got some new things that are going to happen on our website really quickly, and Ben will be involved in every piece of our business from a digital standpoint, whether it's on our website, whether it's in circulation, our e-edition, sales, integrating the newsroom, sort of setting a strategic direction for digital throughout the building. Really been a great hire back. There were a lot of folks in the building. We got a lot of folks with a lot of years in our buildings, and when they found out we were going to hire Ben back, there was a whole lot of celebrating. There's a whole lot of celebrating going on. So we were proud to have him back. He is making a difference already and getting things done. So that's been a positive. I gave Ben a goal his first day. He said, "What is my goal?" He wanted a dollar goal. I said, "I'm not going to give you a dollar goal. So I'm going to give you a percentage goal." And when we walked into this year, we were averaging about 9.5% to 10%. Percentage of revenue digital was about 9.5% to 10%. I told him, I said, I want to see that at 30 by the end of the year. That's no small feat. We will be at 30 just on what he's done in the last 3 weeks without sacrificing print revenue. We will be at 30 by the end of May. We will be looking at that kind of increase. He has been. I'd love to take credit for hiring him back. All I did was sign the paperwork. Billy Kirk, our head director, and Alan were the ones that got him back. So they introduced me to him, and I was like, "We got to go. We got to do it." So had to make a few sacrifices along the way. We've had some more turnover since that. But we've also we had a sales rep, I have to tell you this, we had a sales rep quit the other day to go to work for one of our clients. It's the price you pay when you got good salespeople. Their clients still in the way sometimes, but after she told Ben she was leaving, he congratulated her, great job, great opportunity, and she said, "Well, here's the good news. I've got my replacement." And she said, "And he's better than I am." So the guy that she that had trained her earlier in her career was moving to the area. And 36 hours after she told us that, we had his offer letter signed. So sharp guy. And he will be, as a matter of fact, after Ben talked to him, he said he could take my place. I was like, "I just hired you, you can't leave." So we got there's some really good things happening with the company. And I'm proud to be here. Really glad to be back to a family-owned company after sort of, I worked with, the first company I worked for was 29 years and 50 weeks, not that I was counting. And it was family-owned. And it was a great place to work for 28.5 years of that. It kind of went south after that, but it's a great place to work. So I roamed the landscape for a little while and did work from home, and which I love my wife and my dog, but I like to be around people too, so other people, multiple people. So that didn't come out right, did it, at all? Couple of things that I wanted to mention sort of outside the realm of the digital and what we've done. Back when Rona first came to town, I just like to call it Rona. I get tired of COVID. When Rona first came to town, we were having a meeting one day, and we were talking about sort of the general feel, not just in our building, because everybody was down and, you know, we're having to wear a mask and send some folks home. Didn't let anybody off, just didn't let them go home to work. And there was just general feel of being beat down, defeated a little bit. And, you know, it was clear that this was not gonna be a 1 or 2 week thing. This was gonna be with us for a while. So we're trying to figure out how to get something positive that we could give to folks every day in our papers. And if you look at the paper, for a long time it was on the front. We moved it to the front of the Metro section, but we have this column called Words of Comfort, and it's written every day by a local pastor. We've got a handful that do it, and have had more come on. There some from Southwest Virginia, all denominations. But that kind of bubbled up out of that general feel that we needed something positive. And I can't tell you, I wish we had kept, and Stephanie may have, kept all the notes that we've gotten about what a positive thing that's been. I was on a call with a group called America's Newspapers. It's the biggest trade organization in the country. And I was on a call with them a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, it was just an idea exchange. It didn't have to be a revenue exchange, it's an idea exchange. And I threw that out, and I could literally hear some gasps on the call and see it. It was a Zoom call. People were just, I was appalled that they were appalled that we would do something like that we would throw something out there, you know, that was so blatantly religious. And if you read the columns, they're not all preachy. Some of them get a little bit, but they're not all really preachy. They're just uplifting. And there were a lot of people that were appalled. And I said, look, I'm not going to apologize for doing this. I'm not going to justify doing it other than saying that we wanted something positive for our readers, and that it has been, the feedback's been remarkable. The worst thing that has happened was moving it off the front page. Oh Lord. We caught, I was like, it's still there. It's still there. Because literally people picked up the paper that day and didn't see it on the front. Just assumed it was gone, even though there was a note that said we moved it to Metro. Yeah, that was a bad thing. But they got used to it. Everybody found it. They were good. So that has been a really positive thing that we've been able to offer the community, and the pastors, we've gotten great response from the pastors. There's not many weeks that we don't have somebody call and want to come on board, and we'll take them all, because some of them have been writing since day one, and they don't run out of, pastors never run out of topics. They just don't. They got plenty out there to write about. But it is something they have to do, you know, with some commitment. So it's something outside their church, but it's not outside the ministry. So they have been really, really good about, you know, keeping up with it, keeping their commitments. Some of them they'll write, you know, they get an urge to write something, they'll write something, send it, say, just put this in the bank, and if you gotta wait when somebody can't do it, you know, slide it in. I'm good. They don't get paid for it, but I think everybody that reads them gets a little pay from them. So about 5 weeks ago, I guess, we moved Stephanie McClellan, who was our editor here. We moved Stephanie to Johnson City. Had to let go of the editor down there. And Stephanie is a Johnson City grad, Science Hill grad, Johnson City resident, grew up there. Her dad was a professor at ETSU. She's a Johnson City girl, but had worked here for 26 years, I think, in our newsroom. Had been editor for about 5. But when I had to make a move down there, it just seemed like the logical thing to do was get her back home. And she is such a calming voice, and so even keeled. That's what I needed in that newsroom at the time. And that's what that newsroom needed with the community. Stephanie has done an amazing job in a short period of time of getting out in front of the community, repairing some relationships. She spent about 2.5 hours this week with the police chief down there, who had not been real happy with the paper, understandably so at times. And they had a 2.5 hour meeting, and he sent her and copied me on a note a couple of days later, thanking her for her time and looking forward to working with us. Stephanie has done that many times. She's been with the mayor, she's been with the city manager, she's been with the alderman or councilman, and a multitude of people in a very short period of time down there. And folks are starting to see a difference, in not only what is covered by that newsroom, but how it's covered. She's hired a new reporter down there. Her name's Kayla Hackney. She's a local girl, and Kayla's already Kayla's written 4 stories, and we've gotten notes from the people that were in the stories from 3 of those, saying what a great job she does. Hang on to her. She's 21 years old. She's a keeper there. She's a smart young lady, and very quiet, low key, but boy, listen to her. I listened to her interview somebody on the phone the other day, and I felt like I was listening to a young female version of Larry King. She just has a way of drawing information out of people. So I'll circle back to Kingsport. Since the day that we moved Stephanie down to Johnson City, I've been looking for an editor here. I hope that I get to make an announcement in the next probably 4 or 5 days about who our new editor here will be. We have internal candidates, we have external candidates, and a lot of good ones, a lot of good candidates. So it's been a long process, longer than I wanted it to be. But I told Alan the other day, I said, you know, this will outlast me, and I want him to be comfortable with who he brought in. I'm 63 years old. I don't plan to retire anytime soon, but I hope the editor's here longer than I am. So that I hope will be coming in the next few days. I wanted to address one question that was asked of me when I first spoke to this group. I had been here, like I said, a few weeks, very few weeks. And a gentleman, and it may be somebody that's here, I don't remember, asked very pointedly, why did you turn the paper liberal? And I knew the question was coming. I'd been warned that it was coming. So I hadn't had time to turn anything at just a few weeks in. But here's what had happened, and it's not changed. President Trump had just been elected and had just been inaugurated, and about 65% of our columnists, not our reporters, our columnists on the opinion page, come from a conservative point of view, generally. And we do have a couple of Washington Post columnists, a couple others in there that we throw in the mix just for some variety and some balance, not complete balance, but a little other point of view. So what happened not long after President Trump was inaugurated, there was a lot of criticism from some of these conservative columnists of his policies. But people weren't reading the stories or didn't care. They were reading headlines. And if you read and kind of took notice of where the columnists were coming from, they were not critical so much of his policies as they were tactics. They didn't change their stripes from white to black to white overnight. They didn't go, suddenly become liberal. The same ones that had been critical of President Obama, and they had blistered him, were critical of President Trump, but for different reasons. So that's not changed much. Those columnists are the same. We have not changed but two columnists in the Times News in more than 25 years. So the same conservative columnists that were there are still there. We dropped one Washington Post columnist, and we added Tom Byron, who is about as level conservative as you'll find to the edit page, and I did that the second week I was here. So that has not, like I said, that's not changed since I got here. I didn't turn anybody liberal or turn anything liberal or anything else. And if you look at our editorials, which are 99% local, they generally don't take on a political slant. They're about local issues that are mostly not political. We'll take on a lot of local things in the process, but typically not terribly political unless it's Mount Carmel to Churchill, and those, God knows it's hard not to be political there. So those are our biggest challenges when it comes to writing editorials these days, but they're also the easiest to write sometimes, so, because it gets nuts. But anyway, that's a little bit of an update on what we're doing. There's a whole lot of little pieces, parts that are going on sort of behind the scenes and underneath things. Like I said, it has been, the last 2 months have been crazy. They have been crazy, but they've been crazy good. So I will open it up for questions. Yes, sir.